Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Monday, the 31st and last day of the month of March 2025. It is Monday of the fourth week of Lent. We've begun the fourth week of Lent, and it is the 23rd day of the Lenten season. Coming to you this morning from the interior of our church here at St. Francis. I just got done doing a tour of the church with the first graders. I was going to do the morning reflection with them, but there are some who were on the no photo list, so we couldn't do that. But anyway, it's just me now. But our church still in its Lenten form as we move into these final days of the Lenten season, final 17 days of the Lenten season. The readings for today, though, we begin a turn. In the Gospels, we are going to be moving now to hearing mostly from the Gospel of John, as Jesus' beef, basically, with the Pharisees. The Pharisees' beef with Jesus continues to escalate, and the antagonisms begin to boil over into the decision that Jesus must go, that in the name of peace and quietness, we need to get rid of this man who stirs up people to begin to think differently than what we're teaching them, and begin to understand the relationship with God differently than what we have told them, which is a threat to our power and our control and our authority. But before we get to that part of it, our first reading from Isaiah today basically is a foreshadowing of Revelation, in which God does say, I am creating a new heaven and a new earth. This is what Isaiah says. Isaiah's proclamation today about God doing something new, to create a new heaven, a new earth, where there will be no more sadness, no more mourning, no more pain, no more sorrow, that a person who lives to be 100 will be considered to have been just a young person, who did not live any longer, that there will be much to eat. There will be no hunger, there will be no thirst. Again, this world that God intends, for creation. Again, this understanding of God's desire for creation and why it is that God did create to begin with, is to create this place which there would be wholeness and fullness and wonder and joy for us to abide in. Again, a very interesting reading, for the season of Lent, we might think. Again, especially after all those ones that seem to tinge on the idea of penance and, having to do sorrow for sins because we offended God and whatever it is. Here it is a reading that may be more appropriate in Advent or something like that. But it is a reading because it's a reading that was filled with hope. And yet Lent is a season that is filled with hope. Again, the hope, that our faith continue to burn within our hearts, that we have, again, reason to believe even more, again, once we come through this season, that our commitment to live as disciples, ambassadors of Christ, as Sunday's second reading to the Corinthians basically asks us to be, that we will resolve to do that even more. Again, the signs of hope, again, that Isaiah speaks about, again, are ours for the taking and for the realizing, as long as, again, we remember who we are and to whom it is that we belong. In the Gospel from John today, we have John's interpretation of Jesus healing a servant or a daughter or a son of some kind of official. So Jesus has gone back. He's gone back to Galilee after being in Jerusalem. So there's a lot of going back and forth. And people are very happy to see him there because, again, he made water into wine at the wedding at Cana, and everybody was very happy with that. So, of course, they were. And so while he is walking around and doing his thing in Galilee, a royal official comes up to him. So this is not a Roman citizen. This is not the centurion. This is a royal official of the court of Herod. And he has a servant or a son, someone who is dying, and he asks for Jesus to help. And Jesus' response is immediately rather insensitive, by saying, unless you see signs, you're not going to believe. Well, who's he talking to? This poor man who wanted Jesus' help, or to these other people who are perhaps coaxing him to ask Jesus for this because they want to see a sign? But the man says, "Help me," and Jesus does, and he says, "You go home. Your servant, your child is well." And it's what he is told on his way back. And he says, "When did this happen?" And it was at the moment that Jesus said, "Your child would be healed." And he comes to believe, and his household comes to believe that Jesus is who he says that he is. And this is listed as the second of the great 7 signs that the Gospel of John focuses upon. But again, it's this whole idea, again, of a God who wants to help, even in the midst of all the wrong reasons why we may want God to help, or our own misguided reasons for wanting God to help. Basically, God does through Jesus. Understand that people are not meant to be sad and sorrowful, broken and bent under the problems that the world and that life offers us, but that we are meant for goodness, wholeness, and health, as much as we can find it, as much as we can embrace it. This is what we deserve. It is part of what is the makeup for us in this world, and it should not be deprived us. And so this reading demonstrates it, again, in showing what Isaiah promised about a new heaven and a new earth, a God who intervenes to make all things well. A continued blessed Lenten season, St. Francis and people of God, may the Lord give you his peace.